Ravens, and Steelers. So let's do a feature that we call Revenge Tour. J-Mac, do you expect Lamar Jackson to be on a revenge tour with a new coaching staff after missing the playoffs last year?
Greeny, I do. I don't think Lamar Jackson listens to a lot of the naysayers or the media. I don't think he cares. But the fact that his season a year ago was marred by injuries, but also him looking a step slower, and a lot of people challenging that fact. And then John Harbaugh is let go at the end of that season. I think Lamar Jackson has a lot to prove that he can be the leader and get back to that MVP style of play and also lead his team back to the playoffs.
Tell me if I'm overreacting to this. I feel like the fact that he's been there every day for everything demonstrates that I'm not suggesting he wasn't committed, but demonstrates sort of a renewed commitment to this being my franchise now. I'm going to lead, and everyone's going to follow. The way this has gone, if I'm a fan of that team, I feel very good right now.
Two things could be true. You could be very optimistic about it all, and you can also say, well, hey, you look at it, and it's Declan Doyle. He's a first-time play caller. Never called a play in his life at any level. That makes me a little bit concerned in that, well, are we going to be knocking on the door Super Bowl bound? Are we going to do that with a first-year head coach and a first-year offensive coordinator? But, yeah, Lamar is all in, and I've never seen him happier in Baltimore than this offseason.
I feel like if I were a first-time play caller, I'd love to have Lamar Jackson running my offense. Seems like you have a lot of optionality. Let's go to another legendary quarterback with a new head coaching situation, and that's Josh Allen. Do you see him on a revenge tour under Joe Brady?
It's hard to call it a revenge tour. Josh Allen was still magnificent a year ago, but when you look at that playoff loss, the Bills have lost in these last few years, but we always would come away from the game and say, well, Josh Allen was magnificent in that game, and the others let them down. He didn't play his best in that Denver Broncos game, and I think he's going to have a lot to say for that, and I think that's going to spark the way he plays this entire season.
What do you think?
Again, I'd like to see it. Joe Brady has been a solid offensive coordinator. He's now the head coach, and McDermott won 91 games with that team over 7 years. Again, we're just saying, oh, well, new coach, sky's the limit. These are veteran quarterbacks who are knocking on the door at Super Bowls and have their legacies on the line, and you're going to first-time head coaches, and in many times, guys who have never been through that as that top guy in the organization.
And in both cases, to underline your point, anything short of the Super Bowl is a failure, right? I mean, we've seen them do everything else, so there's no other measure of success.
And I think to your point, we're talking about two MVP quarterbacks that may be awesome next year, but that doesn't mean they're going to take that next step. The last rookie head coach to make it to the Super Bowl was in 2009, Jim Caldwell. It's only happened 5 times, so we're expecting a lot of these new head coaches.
So maybe that's good news for Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, the only team in their division that didn't change head coaches, but they've been out of the playoffs 3 straight years. Do you think Burrow's on a revenge tour?
Joe Burrow already has said we have everything we need in the locker room to get to where we want to go. I think that's a big difference in the last few years on this team. I think he is coming out and he's putting the responsibility on his shoulders. The organization went out and made a trade for Dexter Lawrence. They brought in Super Bowl champions on the defensive side of the ball. Joe Burrow feels like it's up to him now to go out there and execute on the field.
We're saying this in May, but just wait for August. This is going to be the trendy pick for a lot of people for Super Bowl out of the AFC. Not only did they spend the 4th most in the free agent market as any team, which is not Bengals football, this offseason, they bring back 11 starters on offense. 11 starters on offense for an offense that was high-flying when Burrow was in there. All the turnover within the division, Ravens, Browns, Steelers, all new head coaches. The Bengals seem to be the stable situation, and Burrow being on site there at minicamp, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about the Bengals.
That offense was even pretty good when Joe Flacco was.
Yeah, it was. They beat the Steelers that Thursday night game.
And I think one of the storylines here, Peter, is sort of the undercurrent of if things don't go well, is there reason to be thinking about Joe Burrow's future?
They have put all the resources into it, and they brought veterans in. Jonathan Allen, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Cook. They're looking at it this season as like, hey, let's get it done. If they fall on their face and miss 4 straight playoffs, well, then there's discussions to be had.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think there's a degree of urgency that has been created there.
Absolutely. And since the last time they went to the Super Bowl in 21, this feels like the first time that the organization said, you know what, we're going all in. We're going to build a locker room that we feel as though can go out there and actually get back to the Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow feels that.
All right, we have much more to do. OTAs, a quarter of the league are on the field working as we speak. What is your first question now that OTAs are underway?
I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns, and will this be a bounce-back season for Deshaun Watson? Todd Monken's going to be the play caller. He runs a completely different offense than what Watson has been under in Cleveland. But the 2024 season wasn't a pretty one for Deshaun Watson. Can he come back and look similar to what he looked like in a Houston Texans uniform in 2026?
I mean, Peter, let's just say it as directly as we can. I think most people in the football world believe that Deshaun Watson, his career is basically over. How are they viewing that in Cleveland? Because I think there are as many people that are excited to see Shedeur Sanders maybe get some kind of chance. We understand all the money that's tied up in Watson. And we all, on some level, have in our minds the memory of how good he was when he was at his, albeit brief, apex. So what are we thinking in Cleveland?
The last game he played, he hurt himself. He beat the Ravens in a game where he played unbelievable, and then afterwards the injury. They're going to give Deshaun Watson every chance to win that job. He's being paid that way, and he very well may win that job. The truth of the matter is, if you're a Browns fan, you don't want to be too good this year. Because next year is a really rich quarterback draft, and some of that Watson money can be washed away a bit. But he's going to give it his all, and Shedeur, he can fight. But I think it might be Watson's job to lose.
To your point, if Watson goes out there and he plays extremely well this season for the Cleveland Browns, to your point, is that a bad thing? Because then what do you do moving forward?
Holding McCourt, give me one more question. What else are you looking at?
I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say with Jalen Hurts and this Philadelphia Eagles, Sean Mannion, now the offensive coordinator, does he shut up all the haters? Does he go out there and have a season where he's thrown for as many touchdowns as possible, where he's in the MVP race, and we're throwing all the nonsense out about how he interacts with his teammates, that he's not a legit quarterback in this league, although he is a Super Bowl winner and a Super Bowl MVP? I think this is a huge season for Jalen Hurts, and he could shut up a lot of questions that are being asked of him.
They interviewed 17 different offensive coordinators, 17, and they chose a 32-year-old who's never called a play in his life. I look at this one as this is boom or bust here for a lot of people, but they feel very good about the Sean Mannion hire, and I would imagine Jalen Hurts feels pretty good too if they're going to work around his skill set.
Let's talk about that a little more, because the players that they've brought in, the player that we assume they're going to trade away in, a week and a half now or whatever it is in A.J. Brown, what A.J. Brown in theory does, for whatever his relationship is or isn't with Jalen Hurts, I can't pretend that I know directly. We all think we have heard what we've heard and have seen what we've seen. The one thing he does is run up the sideline and let Jalen bomb it down there, and that's what Jalen Hurts seems to want to do. Now they're going to have all this stuff going on in the middle of the field and everything else, and everything I've heard is that that's not his forte and may not be what he wants to do.
Hollywood Brown was quietly signed, and he's still a burner, and they have some speed on that team. But Mekhi Lemon and Devontae Smith, these are talented wide receivers, first-round guys, top 20 picks. I feel like even if they get rid of A.J. Brown, I feel like they still have a core there, and they added enough pieces where they can maybe fill in the gaps.
Are they the team to beat in that division, do you think, J-Mac, with the Cowboys coming up? The Giants, maybe they're a little further away. Washington, we'll see. They were 2 years ago, they were so good. What do you think right now?
I still do think they are the team to beat. And I think, to your point, they drafted a slot receiver. They drafted a tight end. They're going to challenge Jalen Hurts to be able to play action and do some of those things and attack the middle of the field. Sometimes we look at some of these players and we say they can't do certain things, but are they asked to do those things? They may prefer to go on the outside in a Jalen Hurts, but maybe now when you're setting an offense up and you're showing them from the springtime all the way through training camp of how to attack those things and get the most out of his offense, we may see the best version of Jalen Hurts that we've seen in the NFL thus far.
Hurts aside, they lost a really good defensive backs coach who is now the defensive coordinator of the rival Dallas Cowboys, Christian Parker, 34 years old. He might be the biggest X factor in this rivalry as he brings his talents to Dallas.
No team has had more coaching turnover in recent years than the Eagles, which I guess is a testament to how good their team is and how well